In my mind, there's one choice for roofing around here, and I'd go with your best choice. Whether it's time to replace your roof or repair it, Best Choice Roofing provides top-notch roofing services tailored to meet the unique needs of Detroit homes and businesses. They serve the region and inside the city of Detroit, too. You can find out more at bestchoiceroofing.com/Detroit. That's bestchoiceroofing.com/Detroit, or call 313-474-7031. That's 313-474-7031. Hello, friends, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Friday, March 14th, 2025. I am Jer Stay, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. Joining me on the line, as he does every Friday, and let me tell you, Devin O'Reilly, if you can hear it in my voice, last night was fun at Tocororo, and you were missed.
I know. Work duty called. We had some a leadership Detroit session over in Corktown all day, but I hated to miss it. Saw some pictures, was following along on the Discord. Looked like you had a great time. Yeah, Jared, sounds like you had some jungle birds there.
I did, and we also gave away a new edition rocks glass to each of the winners of our trivia, which I'm very excited about. It was a full bar, made me very, very happy. But the opening trivia category, we maybe came a little bit too hard out the gate, but it would be something to your own heart, my friend. Oh. It was all about amazing Hazen Pingree, probably the most beloved mayor of Detroit. So why don't we start the show? We got some news, but let's start the show talking a little bit about why we included this as a trivia category and why he is your favorite mayor of Detroit history.
Well, who created the questions?
Mickey Lyons, archaeologist.
Okay, perfect.
We got into first the potato patch. He was Potato Patch Pingree because he encouraged urban farming.
Yes, I mean, very, kind of very sustainable. Everyone should grow their own produce, specifically potatoes. And he thought, that was a way for, to create a viable community. Obviously, he was very conscious of the environment and agriculture. So, that's definitely a plus for good old Hazen.
Yeah, he served as mayor 4 terms, and then he did 2 terms as governor. And it's wild. He actually died just 1 year after leaving the governor's office, and he laid in state. But during his 4 terms, he lowered utility and streetcar rates. He built public schools. He worked on the roads. He worked on the working poor, which is a really big deal when we're talking about the late 1890s and the Gilded Age, a real man who fought for those sorts of things. And, no person is perfect. But I think that looking as we look into the mayoral race and look to the future, I think it's always important to remember that we've had some doozies for mayor, but we've also had some pretty good ones.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, as history goes, and we look back on these historical figures, there's so much that comes out or that, we kind of look at differently. Overall, though, I will say that's a good point. Hazen's legacy has stood up pretty well. He was someone who, wasn't corrupt in any way. He was someone who fought for the people. He was very much against the Gilded Age type of, cultural situations that were taking place at the time with just the elite and then the elite and then the commoners. He certainly was much more on the side of the people, of the citizens of Detroit. Also an entrepreneur and a businessman involved in selling shoes. He had a shoe store. He did a lot.
There's also one of my favorite pieces of campaign merch ever because it's ridiculous. If you go to the Detroit Historical Museum, which I think you should do, because the Detroit Historical Museum is a great I love Greenfield Village and the Henry Ford. Don't get me wrong, I do. However, if you're looking for something a little bit more digestible in a day, because you could spend multiple days at the Henry Ford and Greenfield Village. You could spend a week there. People do. At the Historical Museum, my favorite piece of campaign merch, because it's so absurd, it is a pipe where his head is the edge of it, and you literally smoke the pipe, and there is Hazen Pingree's head engraved into the pipe. It's amazing.
I don't know how Hazen himself would have felt about that, but it's quite a tribute to him. He really was, he really was someone who fought for reforms. I mean, he was a very strong personality. He had a temper, but I think it was the only way that someone like him was able to kind of really push across legislation and push across causes for the people was because he kind of did it with, a heavy fist, let's say.
Why don't we get into a couple of news stories, my friend? One is about population actually growing both in Oakland County and Wayne County. Wayne County reversed a 5-year population decline. Oakland County posted its fastest growth since 1995. 82 out of Michigan's 83 counties saw gains, but where is it from? International migration. Michigan being a destination for this, engineers, people wanting to, find opportunities. And I think this is really interesting. Only 11 counties in the state had more births than deaths. So it's interesting to see how this is impacting Michigan and looking at communities that frankly are very vibrant and have added vibrance because of more people to the mix.
For someone who kind of not studies this, but kind of works in a space and also lives in Dearborn, this isn't surprising at all. I'm glad that it's kind of showing up in the data now, because it certainly has felt like that. The immigrant communities in the state have continued to grow. Immigrant entrepreneurs and business owners have been a backbone of not only the population growth, but the economic growth that we've seen recently. And it's really, it's really by that Michigan has even been able to sustain itself. Without that, gosh, we'd be in big trouble, Jared, because we would just be hemorrhaging people. If you take the international immigration out of it, Michigan would definitely be a loss leader in terms of population. So that has been extremely helpful, and because of it, we have a rich cultural diaspora throughout Southeast Michigan and mostly in Michigan, but particularly in Southeast Michigan is where obviously the diversity shows up.
Oh yeah, you talk about Dearborn, you can talk about areas like Madison Heights, some amazing types of food, areas like Novi, areas like Troy that are all having a lot of stuff. And I'm going to say something possibly unpopular. I have an maybe unpopular opinion with some, and this is my personal opinion. I am personally unabashedly pro legal immigration. I'm very much for people. I believe in the American dream. I believe that America should be the shining light on a hill. That is my personal opinion. And I love seeing just so many people who are excited about what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, I hope that's not a controversial opinion, that you're for legal immigration. I think I would certainly say that as well. And not only that, I'd go even further and say that it needs to be easier, because I think some of the issues that we run into is that, people get frustrated. It takes so long. The process is so arduous to become a citizen or to get your green card, and so maybe if it was easier, if it was quicker, you would definitely see an uptick in the legal immigration that is happening. So I'm hoping not only more of it, but let's make it easier too. And Gerald, and like you said, just there's so many different types. When we talk about the international immigration, it's from all sorts of different countries and continents and areas. It's not really just one particular group of people that's coming here. Depending on where you're at, they're literally from everywhere. So it's really cool to see. It only creates a better communities, better culture, better food for sure, and hopefully a better understanding. So I'm enthused by what I see with Michigan. Certainly trends going upward. Anytime we're able to either stabilize or grow population for Michigan, because we talk about it so much, because it's so much of an issue, that's huge for us. So this is definitely a positive story, positive turn of events.
Looks like we are not going to have a Democratic senatorial campaign by Mr. Pete Buttigieg, the former transportation secretary. There were a lot of rumors for a while that he was going to go for governor, for a while that he was going to go for Senate. Now, in a statement, he says he is going for neither. Many pundits that I listen to say that, hey, he's already got his eyes on the presidential prize. I'm not saying this, and this is my opinion, I am not saying this as a knock against Pete, because a lot of people have pointed out, probably quite rightly, that we'd probably get along. I understand the idea that if he is truly looking at running for president, the Democrats would not be well served by having a 2-year senator.
Yeah, and I think it goes deeper than that, Jared. That point is taken. I think that Pete is nothing if not smart and calculating. And I think that he saw a couple things, what you said, but also he couldn't lose. If he ran for either governor or senator and lost, he wouldn't be able to run for president. So it was kind of a gamble. And I think he saw the writing on the wall that he probably wouldn't have been the front runner for either of those positions, and decided best to just kind of sit back, wait it out, and grow his presence. But it does put him at a disadvantage because obviously if you are already in a position of, political power, you already have a seat, you're a governor, you're a senator, you're a congressman, you kind of have a pulpit to get yourself out there. You can get on shows, you can make statements, press conferences, and all that sort of thing. You can make legislation. When you're not, though, it becomes really difficult. So inevitably, you would think when it does come time to start sorting out the field for 28, he's going to be up against people who are currently holding, senatorial, gubernatorial positions. And so it could put him at a disadvantage. He's going to have to really, really work extra hard to get himself out there in the space, in the media.
Can I push back on that a little bit?
Okay.
I really believe we're getting into a different era of politics. There is a lot of discontent with the establishment right now, whether it is on the left or the right. I saw a recent a survey of voters in Axios where it was an intimate survey where they select a number of voters who voted for President Donald Trump and then are unhappy with him, but they said they would not vote. They still would not vote for Vice President Kamala Harris. I think there is an anti-establishment wave going on right now. I think that the Democrats are feeling kind of rudderless to a lot of people. And I think it could be running on the outside in a social media age where all you have to be is compelling. I don't think people really care if you're in office, if you're compelling, especially in this age of social media and the attention economy. And by not being an elected official, he has no constraints on what he could say. You saw when he did interviews as a transportation secretary, it would be like, you can ask me about X or you can ask me about Y. Well, depending on what hat he had to wear, he had to be kind of political about it. When you're not in office, you can say whatever you need to say. So I'm going to push back and say maybe he could use that to an advantage.
Yeah, I will take that pushback. That's a good point. That's kind of making lemonade out of lemons here. That would be the best case for him, is that he can become kind of more of an outsider. He can kind of push back on both parties and say, you're both doing it wrong. I've got new ideas. I've got better ideas. So it does. Yeah. If he can lean into that, I think that could be the way he positions himself advantageously. But we'll see. I mean, he's very media savvy. I'm sure he'll get out there. I'm sure he'll do something to kind of keep him out there. I know we have some other potential 28 challengers doing like podcasts or just getting on shows more often. You can kind of see who's kind of starting to establish themselves. Books, exactly. But I mean, books seem kind of silly. I mean, I don't know.
And so I think it's part of the continuum. It's one thing of many. I'm thinking specifically about State Senator Mallory McMurrow, whose name has come up more now that Buttigieg is not in this mix, on the Democratic side. It'll be interesting to see. It'll also be interesting to see in a couple of years where people's desires are, because that's changing too. This is a very shifting kind of landscape.
Yeah, we can't be prisoners of the moment and say, oh, the climate right now is what is going to determine, 2028 and even 2026. Things will likely be, just because of the way things are going now, much, much, much different. And the political landscape will be much different. And we'll see how that affects who runs and kind of how they run. But you got to get out there. That's the one thing I think candidates learned, particularly Democrats, is you got to get out there early. You got to make a name for yourself, and you got to be authentic. Like, I've heard people say this. It's like, stop wringing your hands and reading the data on what you should talk about and how you should talk about a certain issue. Just talk authentically about what you actually care about. And I think that'll come through and people will appreciate that.
I think people overreact to the immediate, well, so-and-so is upset. And another group, you can't make everybody happy all the time.
People are going to be upset at you, but it doesn't matter. I think if you're authentic, if you are saying something that you do believe and that you are passionate about, and it's going to come through, and at least people will appreciate the authenticity, even if they disagree with you. And at the end of the day, like, no candidate should be dismissed at this point, because it's anyone's game. And just because you personally think like, oh, this person could never be president because of blank, trust me, blank is probably not a reason that other people wouldn't vote for him. So don't take that for granted.
Let's end the show on a fun note, because we are coming up on what I believe is one of your favorite holidays, St. Patrick's Day. Well, let's be honest. In Metro Detroit, it's St. Patrick's Day weekend.
I know. In my younger years, Jared, I had a real beef with people who did this St. Practice Day.
We have been friends long enough that not only do I remember that beef, I remember standing in a bar with you on the day itself, hearing about that beef.
Yes, I'm always someone who says you must observe the holiday on the day. And I still do believe that to an extent. But you can extend your celebration. Just don't call it St. Practice Day, Jared. That's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You shouldn't have to practice for this. Just do or do not. There is no try. The great Yoda.
Oh, Yoda.
Exactly. Oh, Yoda. So no, don't call it that. If you want to go celebrate on Saturday, go celebrate on Saturday. I'm doing something with our friends and on Saturday. We're not calling it that by any means. You have the parade Sunday. So, the parade always falls the Sunday before the holiday. So sometimes that can be days before the actual holiday, and sometimes that can be right up aligned with it. So this year, you're literally going to have the parade on Sunday and then St. Patrick's Day on Monday. So it will kind of be truly a kind of weekend of celebration, which is perfectly fine. And I endorse all of the festivities and revelry that you want to do.
We actually have a pretty decent list over on dailydetroit.com. In our most recent newsletter, I included a few items. Of course, the parade details. Of course, the Corktown race details. If for some reason you want to run in the morning, if you are that kind of person,
Not me.
Bless you. Bless you. That's not me. I do want to ask, though, about the food and the drink. What is the number one food thing in your, what do you make on either side? What is the O'Reilly feast like for listeners who are, maybe they're new to us. Maybe they didn't hear you a few years ago when we've talked about this.
Well, the good news is Irish food is pretty cheap and pretty easy to make. It just kind of requires a little time. So things that I will also kind of co-sign on is if you want to make shepherd's pie, that's a great option. Mashed potatoes and ground beef, carrots and celery. If you want to do Irish stew with like a Guinness Irish stew, that's a great option. Personally, I'm still a big fan of the corned beef. The slow and low, throw some corned beef in a slow cooker, pour some Guinness over it, maybe some brown sugar.
Is that it?
Use the spice pack. Use the spice packet that the corned beef comes with. Your general corned beef spices usually come with a little packet. And then you really just need some brown sugar and some Guinness. And for me, that's pretty much it.
Oh.
And you just keep it in there for, you got to keep it in there at least 8 hours.
Longer better?
Longer the better. Absolutely. If you can do it overnight, do it overnight. And you put some carrots in there, some potatoes, cabbage, and you basically have yourself a little Irish feast. You can get out some soda bread and make sandwiches if you want, or just eat the corned beef as it is. So that's what I would go with, and that's what I'm going to do this weekend.
I want to shout out Joe Hakeem, who came by Tocororo last night and dropped off soda bread for people from Ackroyd's Bakery.
Dang. Well, now I really feel like I missed out. Soda bread is really, really good. They have them at stores. If you're out grocery shopping this weekend, look for some soda bread, look for some shortbread, much sweeter, but also very, very good. And then, for drinks, Jared, you can't go wrong with Guinness. It actually is very drinkable. I think the biggest misconception about Guinness is people see the color of it and they assume it's a heavy beer. Oh, I don't want to drink a Guinness. It's heavy. Guinness is actually it's a very light drinkable beer. So you can't go wrong with Guinness, and then get your Irish whiskeys. You can't go, I would offer up any of them personally. I like Tullamore Dew. But that's just a personal preference. If you wanted to go high end, Green Spot is a very, very nice Irish whiskey that sips like a Scotch. So those are my humble opinions.
Now, before we go, I have one request from a listener from last night, Devin O'Reilly.
Okay.
We need to make sure that we promise the people that we do an updated opening day guide for this year, considering everything. The last time we did a big one, it was before everything. I realized, by the way, that this month, Devin, We have been posting podcasts for 8 years.
Wow. Podcast for 8 years. Wow. And I think even, the original opening day thing, I wrote for Daily Detroit. So that tells you how long ago it was.
We should try to find that.
Oh, I'm sure. Jared, check the archives.
Yes.
The archives. It's in there. But things have inevitably changed. I mean, when I wrote that, there was, let's see, there was no LC. No, there's no LCA. There was probably a totally different restaurant bar landscape. So yeah, let's do it again. We need to update our kind of guide for opening day.
But we're not going to call it practice day. It's not going to be spring training.
No, no spring training. We're jumping right into the season. You should have been training. Pitchers and catchers have reported a long time ago. Spring training is underway. So, if you're not prepared for opening day, you better get there.
Well, Devin O'Reilly, I appreciate you so very much.
You too, Jer, and look forward to celebrating our successes and celebrating our daily community in the near future. This weather breaking has me feeling good about the spring.
I am looking at my phone right now. I am no weatherman, but it says 68 for later today. I'm going to edit this. I've got meetings and things to do, but every single chance that I'm going to be able to step outside and get some sun, I am going to do it because it's absolutely gorgeous. You know who else is gorgeous? Our listeners. Each and every one of you are wonderful. If you feel like doing it, we'd really appreciate it if you drop 5 stars on your favorite podcast app, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts. The ratings do help. And a special ask, tell a friend about the show. It is the best way to grow Daily Detroit. Literally open up your email and be like, hey, go check out Daily Detroit. You want to listen to these guys about what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. Our listeners are amazing. It was wonderful to be around everyone. I had that fear, 4:30, 4:45, I was with engineer Randy, and we're like, what if we do all this stuff and nobody comes? And then the bar was full. And so my heart is full as well.
Yes. Thank you to all the listeners. Again, I'm sorry I couldn't see you, but I think we will cross paths again soon.
Well, with that, I'm Jer Stays. Thank you so much for listening to your Daily Detroit. Remember that you are somebody. We'll see you around town.